I'm going to run you through exhaust hoods and what to look for, where to save money, where to be careful with. Like, you have to be careful with these. There's so much legislation around them, and you have to get it all exactly right, or you can be shut down. So I'll start stepping through this, and I've seen nightmares around this, right? Like, with people spending 50, 80, 4K, it was an exact reference, 100K more getting these things right. So I have that in every video you might have seen. I've done hundreds and hundreds of these. I've owned four of my own cafe. I've designed so many restaurants, cafes, bars, burgers, dumplings, bakeries, every sort of concept you imagine. So this is not just some dude with an opinion. This is based on real, proper, experience. So all countries, cities, states have different legislation around this, different words they use. So I'm going to keep this relatively broad because in your area, in your country, there will be different language around this stuff, but I'll give you the fundamentals around it because it's all the same stuff, right? So like an exhaust hood has to remove dirty, greasy, smoky or steamy air out of the environment and then replace it with fresh, clean outside air, right? Makes it breathable, makes it clean, gets all the grease out of the air. If you've ever been in a space that doesn't have a hood, over time, grease builds up everywhere, like on the top of shelves, on the top of cool rooms, if there was not like an appropriate level of hood. So like the hood removes all of that out of there, and then obviously it has to be cleaned. And so it has to be easily cleanable because all that grease is going up there, which will start a fire. Has to prevent fires. There's lots of, in different parts of the world, you're required to have sprinklers on the side of the hood. Some areas it's not. And there's different types of hood for different types of cooking. There's steam that can be for, ovens and even for dishwashers, so there's not too much steam in a room. Greasy stuff, which is your standard gas and electric cooking with deep fryers and ranges, etc. But then there's like solid fuel. So if you're actually using burning some lumber or some timber, some wood, that requires a different type of hood because it has to be managed differently. So don't guess this stuff. Don't assume it's right. Make sure that you're working with a contractor, and I'll go through this. So even if you take over an existing restaurant, you can't assume that the hood is right for what you want to do. So there's lots of stuff around like the width and the depth of the hood in different parts of the world. You might have to be, however many inches or millimeters away from the edge of your piece of equipment and the overhang around it. If it's an island hood, as in there's not a wall behind the equipment, it has to be deeper to allow, because more air has to come up around it to suck out any of the dirty air. So I've seen people take over an existing restaurant, assume everything was fine, and then there's a bakery going into the restaurant, and so the equipment's too big for underneath the hood and they needed a different type of hood, so they had to replace the whole thing. Cost them 50 grand odd, and they missed out on like 34 grand of sales and rent that was payable. Like, it just caused chaos. So just be careful with this. The size of the duct matters. So the smaller the duct, the less air that can pass through it. The bigger the duct, more air can pass through it. That's pretty simple. So the size of your hood dictates how much air needs to be sucked through that hood to be at, the right rate, so that enough, if it's too slow, it's not going to suck things up, and the dirty, greasy air is going to go outside and past the hood. And so that size of the duct determines that. So again, if you can't just put another hood on an existing duct that's bigger, because there won't be enough air being sucked through that duct. So the size of the duct determines how much air can be pulled through. So again, you need that mechanical engineer or contractor to check that. Also, the fan dictates it, right? Like, if you've got a bigger duct, you need a bigger fan. So you can't just replace the hood and replace the duct. You probably have to replace the fan as well. So just thinking about that. And then if you are doing a new installation, your fan needs to usually be a certain distance away from openable windows and doors. Again, legislation's different throughout the world. This is just what I'm familiar with, but it's common sense, right? If you have all this dirty air coming out of here and there's an openable window right next to it, it's just going to go inside there. So I'd imagine most countries with developed laws aren't going to allow you to put a dirty extract hood right next to a window. Then even these things, and this image just shows a reference. That's not actually what the hood looks like, but behind it or within it, or can be within the duct, there's UV filters that can destroy some of the odors. So if you're around apartment blocks or some other requirement, some legislation may require it, you might have to install one of these within your hood or within your ductwork, which can be another $20,000 or whatever it is that you have to spend. There's also acoustic wrapping that sometimes has to go around the ductwork, because you can imagine this fan on the roof sucking all this air through this metal duct or pipe. It can rattle around a bit, so they might require you to cover it in acoustic wrap to stop that rattle and vibration going through to neighboring tenancies. Another cost. Bear this stuff in mind. I don't mean to say it to scare or intimidate. I say it so that you go in with eyes wide open, so you know what you're looking for, so you don't assume everything's okay. Never gamble with this, right? Other thing is also just don't take a mechanical contractor's word for it, because some of them are selling you the most expensive version, but there are lots of these great mechanical contractors and engineers out there that have been doing this for 10, 20 years. They've seen everything. They deal with restaurants and cafes all day long. They know the code back to front. And if you find these people, then they can find you practical, cost-effective solutions that tick the box and mean you're going to have fresh air, you're not going to start a fire, but are the most cost-effective way possible. There's always a lot of engineers design for the dream, but you can often bring it down a hell of a lot and get it for a hell of a lot less price, as long as you're dealing with these really practical people. So those are my recommendations around this. Don't DIY it. Work with professionals, but find the right professionals, and then you're away. And I'd love to hear any kind of disaster stories around this, because there are a lot of them out there. But I'll check the link into another video now, so you can have a look at another video. And hopefully this helps you on your restaurant, cafe, bar, whatever sort of space you're opening up and on that journey. See you on the next one.